Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Is This A Podcast? I think we're up to episode number 8. I'm going to have a little look online because I can't remember. And that's the truth. It's not even that they're actually that good or that they even get viewers. I think it's just a nice chance for me to have a bit of a rant, a bit of a rave, and just set the world to rights in my own little mind. So I'll go to your videos. The last episode was episode 7, so this is episode 8. Was I correct? I think I was correct. Fuck it, I'll just say I am. So yes, welcome to another episode. Today it is the 26th of August 2020 when I am recording this. So of course any news things that we talk about in here, the information is right as of the time of recording. It is currently 3:45 in the morning, so there we go. And there is a few topics for us to talk about in the news. I think possibly for the first time ever on this podcast, it isn't all going to be about COVID. Of course, we are going to talk about the topic because it's still ongoing. In fact, actually, since the last time I did an episode, which was a month ago, and so a month ago, the UK would have been sort of coming out of the lockdown. And oh god, how to fill you in. So in the time since then, we've basically, I think officially speaking, we're almost out of the lockdown. Like, the schools in Scotland have already returned. The schools in England are going to return in a few weeks. And it's, I don't know. It's kind of a weird stage because offices around the UK are still saying to some staff, look, carry on working from home. And I kind of want this to be a permanent thing, like the working from home thing. It's not only because it is better to work from home, but it is reducing. Like, I can speak certainly on behalf of my mum. She's not using hardly any fuel in the car. And it's got to be so much better for the environment. I mean, that's just one car not having to make the trips. Do you know what I mean? And there is loads of other cars that, the people aren't having to use them to go in and out of work. So, from an environmental point of view, that's got to be a good thing, right? We hope. But the UK has gone into a thing of, instead of us going into a national lockdown, we now go into area lockdowns. So there's actually been, around me, there's been 4 separate areas that went into some sort of a lockdown. But here's the weird thing though, because each area saw an increase in the amount of COVID-19 cases being confirmed. And fine, they went into lockdown. But they went into different sorts of lockdowns. It just completely depended on how many new infection cases there were. So one of them might just have been, you can't travel in the same car as people from different households. Another area might well be, well, your shops have to shut. So it's just weird at the minute. I think socially, COVID is over because people are bored, and I think now, even if there was to be a national lockdown again, if we went into a proper second spike of cases, then yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to be following the restriction rules, and that's you know. It's sad, but I don't know, it's just weird. Anyway, so let's dive into the news. So, as a part of the idea to kind of get the economy started again in the United Kingdom, we had a thing which was called Eat Out to Help Out. And the idea was that you could go to a participating cafe, restaurant, you know, something like that, and they would give you, or the government would give you, 50% off your bill up to £10 per person. Which might not, you know, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound like a lot at all. But we went out the other week. There was me, my auntie, my mum, my brother. We went out to this lovely pub. Oh my God, the food was amazing. But the bill, I mean, with drinks and everything on top, the bill came to, I think it was £24 or £28 for 4 of us. And you're like, wow, that is good. So this news story here says that diners use the Eat Out to Help Out scheme more than 64 million times in its first 3 weeks, according to the latest Treasury figures. It runs every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in August, and it is to encourage support for the hospitality sector. The Chancellor that we have at the minute, Rishi Sunak, has said that the scheme is currently supporting nearly 2 million jobs. Now, the hospitality sector, shall we call it, yeah, they got hit kind of the worst with the lockdown. Unfortunately, you know, I think a lot of them tried to sort of change their business to, instead of being like an eat-in restaurant or pub, it would be a takeaway. And you know, there is potentially a lot of business, you know, going from now on in doing the takeaway thing, and the home deliveries and that sort of thing. And perhaps a lot of businesses will continue to, perhaps they will continue to do that going forward. It would be nice if they could, anyway. So yeah, it's been used nearly 64 million times. And the thing is, you know, you don't have to sign up to anything. It's not a voucher-based system. It's just purely the restaurant will edit your bill when you go, and that's how it's worked, and it's worked out really, really well. For example, I've eaten out. How many times have I done it now? I think it's twice. I think I've had the discount. So, and to be honest with you, if we'd have gone and it would have been normal prices, I mean, one of them, yeah, they were offering some really good lunchtime prices, so probably would have paid full for that one. But the other one, no, wouldn't have paid full amount for. I can't even remember where the other one was, but yeah, it was somewhere. Anyway, as I am recording this, there is the run-up to the elections, which are happening in America. And it's kind of interesting how things are almost working out, I say. Because for the run-up to the election, someone has obviously told Donald Trump, look, a lot of the people that aren't going to vote for you are probably going to do postal voting. And it's like, as soon as someone has said that, something has switched in Donald Trump, and he is attacking the United States Postal Service, which is USPS for short. Now, usually, to an election, there would be an amount of money agreed with the Postal Service to not only deliver the election paperwork to people, but also to deliver it and make sure it's delivered in time to the polling stations. And Donald Trump in the past few weeks has threatened to not pay. He's threatened to basically bankrupt the US Postal Service, which is the only system of its kind in America at the moment. This news story says that 3 United States are suing the Trump administration over changes to the USPS ahead of the November election. It is the latest development in a huge row over the federal agency, which is tasked with handling mail-in ballots for the vote. The filing alleges that partisan meddling is slowing deliveries, which could endanger election plans. Neither the White House nor the USPS have yet commented on the filing, but Democrats allege that the head of the USPS, who was appointed by US President Donald Trump, has tried deliberately to sabotage the election with a series of recent reforms. So Postmaster General Louis DeJoy has dismissed the allegations and said, though he hasn't said that, the top Republican donor told senators on Friday that all ballots will arrive on time and announced the reforms would be delayed until after the election. Now, the reforms that they're talking about in that news story is things like members of staff being told, if you don't think that you're going to have time to deliver certain posts and parcels, leave them. All overtime is cancelled. Another little part on the news story here says, but he has overseen the removal of mailboxes and reduced overtime pay for workers. The postal system, we've had the same talks over here in the UK. Our postal system at the minute, the Royal Mail, is privately owned. And there has been talks over here about, what role does the postal service play? And it's the same thing in America, really, because, as a whole, we have moved away from using any postal system because, why send a letter now when you can just send an email? Why send a postcard when you can just update your social media and people are going to, get the pictures and the messages and everything like that? The way that we communicate has changed, and especially during this lockdown. I've had government paperwork that has come through to me as an email, and normally these things would be printed out and posted out to you. So, you know what I mean? Things have changed a lot. But while, yes, there isn't as much post being sent, we have to look at the election system, because more and more people cannot make it to polling stations, and so an increased amount of people rely on the postal system to bring them their voting ballot and to have it delivered in time so that the vote actually counts. So where do we draw the line here? It does seem that the USPS is kind of being pushed into, well, you're not making money, so we're going to kind of shut up shop a little bit. But they're doing this at a time when the president is already against the company and people are relying on it for the vote more than ever before. America still has a huge issue with COVID-19, and the safest way for people to vote is going to be through the postal system. So the post system would be under more stress than ever before anyway because of COVID, but our way of life is changing anyway. So yeah, it's just so messed up at the moment. And I think that the USPS itself should be treated as a separate entity. I don't think that the Postmaster General position should be appointed by the President. That doesn't make sense. The person who should be put into that job is someone who has worked up through the system, who has the qualifications, who knows how the system works, and who can actually deliver a good performance, offering good value for money, instead of someone who has donated a lot to the political party of the president. That's the way that it should be, in my opinion. But there you go. What does my opinion account for anything? Because nothing changes these days. Oh dear. Okay, let's have a little look at what else is in the news at the moment. Just on a little thing through the headlines here, and it just says Elton John's ex-wife attempted suicide during their honeymoon. So I'm guessing that that's probably what happens when you marry a gay man. Just quite an interesting little thing here. The earliest known person to contract coronavirus within the UK has been identified, scientists believe. Analysis of samples by the University of Nottingham showed a 75-year-old woman from Nottinghamshire tested positive on the 21st of February. She is also understood to be the first person in the UK to die after contracting COVID-19. It's very unfortunate that she died, but that would be kind of a bit of a good claim to fame, wouldn't it? Be like, yeah, I was patient zero. Weird. News of the case has only emerged now because samples are being analysed in retrospect by researchers as they investigated the origins of the UK pandemic. And now, that is actually a very good point, because obviously they found the first case in the UK that the person tested positive on the 21st of February. Now, she would have potentially been unwell for, let's say, a week before that, but that's still in February. So all these people on social media at the minute going, oh, well, that means I must have had COVID back in December last year. No, you fucking didn't. You had the flu, or you had a cold. You didn't have COVID-19, because going by this research up to now, COVID officially was not in the country until the 21st of February. So, you're talking out your arse. Anyway, the last news story that we're going to pick up on is one that is really doing the rounds at the minute. And I don't quite know where to stand on this, and I'm going to explain myself with why I think the way that I do think on this, and then you can judge me. So the news story is several US cities have been rocked by protests after a black man was shot by police in the state of Wisconsin. Jacob Blake, 29, was shot several times in the back as he entered a car where his 3 children were seated. His family said he has been left paralyzed from the waist down, although doctors do not know if this is going to be permanent. The Kenosha Police Department said that the officer-involved shooting happened shortly after 5 p.m. on the 23rd of August. Police have said that they were responding to a domestic incident, but so far it is unclear who called the police, how many officers were involved, and what happened before the shooting. Police in Kenosha do not have any body cameras, although they do have microphones. Lawyers for Mr. Blake said that he was trying to de-escalate a domestic incident when the police drew their weapons. The person who... because I should explain at this point. So there's a video that's gone around, a viral video, and that's kind of brought the story to the mainstream media. So this news story goes on to say the person who shot the video, Racine White, or Rayshawn White, I don't know how you pronounce that, told CNN before he began filming, he saw police wrestle, punch and taser Mr. Blake. It was then he started recording, and Mr. Blake is shown walking around to the front of his SUV. And then the two officers closest to Mr. Blake at this point on the video are white males. As he opens the door and leans into the car, one officer can be seen grabbing his shirt and opening fire. 7 shots can be heard in the video as witnesses about shout and scream. Mr. White told what's the AP called? Associated Press, I think it is. But the news agency, that he heard police officers shout, "Drop the knife," before the gunfire erupted, but he said he didn't see a knife in Mr. Blake's hands. Police said that officers had provided immediate aid to Mr. Blake, who was taken to hospital in Milwaukee afterwards. So, when you look at the news stories around this incident, of course, your mind goes to Black Lives Matter. And this potentially is another incident where it's an unarmed black man being shot by white police officers. But I don't know where I stand on this, because so if the police have not long turned up, and even if there has been, as this witness says, that they'd already used a taser on him and they'd already been like wrestling with him and that sort of thing, so the police turn up, they know that there's an incident going on, they've wrestled and they've already tasered this man, but somehow he's got up and he's walking around to his vehicle, he's opening the door and he's leaning in. The police officers, and I think any of us that were there, would immediately think he's going to that car to get a weapon. So, do you stand there and potentially let him shoot you? Or do you shoot him in a bid to stop him from getting any weapon that he might, or that you think he might have? That's a grey area, isn't it? Because there is no official rules. Each incident has to be treated, as it was, or as it is. And a snap decision has to be made by the officers. So, the officers could very well turn around and say, look, we thought he was getting a weapon out the vehicle, that's why our guns were used. And I would understand that if I was in their situation, because the officers, when you watch the video, as the officers are walking behind him, because they follow him around to where he opens the car door, as they're following him, they are shouting at him, and it's as if he just ignores them. So the only way that we can get a genuine idea of what happened is to see if Mr. Blake can remember what happened. Now, the likelihood of that is probably not going to remember it exactly how it happened, because when the body has a severe trauma like that, like being shot 7 times, and then finding out, when you regain consciousness, that you're paralyzed from the waist down, the brain, should I say, tries to, I don't know how you'd say it, but tries to sort of block what has happened in a way of dealing with it. So, but yeah, I mean, I would love to hear his side of the story. I would love it if more witnesses were to come forward and put their side, of events, put that forward. I would love to actually hear from the police officers, But I understand this whole incident is under investigation. So police officers are not going to be going to the press anytime soon, and probably witnesses might be told don't go to the press because it might jeopardise the investigation, which is fair enough. I understand that. So I don't quite know where to stand on this, but I'm not siding with either side at the moment. I'm waiting until I know more, and then, make an official stand on the incident, form a proper opinion then, when I know more. The way that things look at the minute, I understand where the police were coming from, in that they were shouting. He didn't stop, he just went round to his car, he opened the door and went in, but that just leaves me with the question of why? Why was he doing that? Like, did he think the police had the incident under control, I can go now? Was he just getting a drink of water because he was no longer involved? This is it. It leaves you with more questions than it does answers. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. Until I know more, I can't really make a fair judgment on it. And I think that would stand for the rest of the public, in fairness. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of all of this, as an end result. But there we go. So we are out of California stories for me to tell. So over the last couple of videos, I've gone through each day of the California trip and told you little bites of information, and I actually really enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed sort of having the little trip down memory lane, because even though it isn't coming up to a year yet, I'm quite sure that when it, in November, when it does come to it having been a year, since the trip, I probably will have forgotten certain things, and certain things that I didn't capture on video. So having the videos or having the podcasts there for me to go back and listen to about stuff that I didn't manage to record or didn't make it into the videos, that sort of thing, it's actually really handy to have. So yeah. Plus, actually, since the last time that I did a podcast, so I don't know if you remember, but I said about going to and from California. We flew on a Boeing 747 something like that. It's 747 dash something. But anyway, so we flew on them planes, and they are amazing. Like, still to this day, in my mind, it doesn't make sense that something that big can fly. Like, I can't get my head around it. But it did. And the reason that I say it did is because British Airways announced that they are retiring all of the 747s. And the weirdest thing about it, they are doing it with immediate effect. They will never ever fly again. And that for me was like really sad. I mean, I was glad that I had the chance to fly it on one, or well, two of them, because at least I can say, yeah, I flew on them, and they were huge, and they were this and they were that. Like, but yeah, just, I don't know. It's kind of amazing, really. But just super sad that they're ending their life cycle. I believe it was because I did look more into it, and I think it was last year that Boeing stopped making the planes, and I think they stopped making parts for them as well. I did read that somewhere, but I don't know how true that actually is. But yeah, it's just sad. They were apparently called the Queen of the Sky, and my God, they were. Like, you really knew if you were seeing one or hearing one, because obviously, we sat in the airport for a little bit and we're watching these take off and land and everything like that. And they were just incredible. The roar of them engines, my God, just incredible. I mean, I love flying anyway. Well, no, I don't like flying because I get bored. I love the takeoff and landing. Oh my God, the best bit about it. But I mean, the middle bit wasn't too bad on the California trip that we had, because you get given your blankets and your little neck pillows and your earphones, and you had the on-demand entertainment system and all this sort of stuff. So the middle bit actually wasn't that boring. Plus, the free alcohol might have helped a little bit. May have landed in America with a little bit of a hangover, but there we go. Anyway, so we're out of stories about California now. And what I wanted to do originally on this part was let other people tell their holiday stories. And as you might have guessed, this podcast does not get really good viewing figures. It doesn't at all. And so nobody came forward to put a story on here, which is a shame, but that leaves me open, so I can now talk about kind of anything I want to. And the first topic that I have decided to talk about in this is it's to do with depression. Now, depression is a term that is flung around so often these days, but it is a really, really complicated issue. So I want to explain to you, my experience with depression. Now look, like I said, it's a complicated topic. My experience of depression is not going to be the same as everyone else's journey with depression. Everyone's story is different, but it is key that we talk about this. Depression is taking too many people from us. It's costing lives. On a business side, it costs jobs. It costs the economy millions of pounds and dollars and fucking yen every year. And yet still, we find ourselves unable to talk about depression. And while, yes, these days it is easier to talk about it, there still seems to be a sense of shame around it. There seems to be a sense of, what's the point in me telling these people, because nobody's going to believe me anyway. And I can fully understand that, because I've been in that exact same situation. See, for me, my depression kind of started when I was in high school. My parents had gone through a divorce, and I can't really accredit my depression to that. I mean, obviously, yeah, it was upsetting and, a bit of a culture shock, because, we had to move house into different areas, and I was spending Monday to Friday with my mum, and then over a weekend I'd be there with my dad in a different village. And there was all this stuff going on, and there is no easy way to guide a child through a divorce. My mum and my dad did try and make it, as easy as possible. My mum especially, she would take me out to the cinema. I remember once, and before the film started, I can't remember what film it was we were watching, but before the film started, and she said, "Look, how are you? How is this divorce affecting you? Is there anything you want to ask me about?" And my mum was really, really good, and still to this day, me and my mum have this kind of unbreakable bond, in that we can talk to each other about the most random of shit, but we know that we've got each other's back. So if my mum rang me up and she was upset about something, I'm going to listen to her and try and help her. And it's exactly the same thing. I can ring my mum up any time of the day or night, like, "Mum," even if I've stubbed my toe, on, like if I've hit my toe on the kitchen table or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It could be the most stupidest thing. My mum's always there, and that's a fabulous thing to have in my life, and I know that I am very privileged to have such a relationship, because I know that not everyone does with their parents, or even with their friends and that sort of thing. But my depression started when I was in high school. I think it really kind of kicked up because I was never a fan of school anyway. And when I was in high school, towards the end of, and go to another. And the way that we did it, I think it was a good idea, but we did it that the last week of school I would spend in the new school before we broke up for the summer holidays. And that was just to kind of get the gist of look, this, if it says on your sheet that you've got science, this is where science is. If it says English, look, you go down these stairs. This is where the toilets are. This sort of stuff. So it did help me to settle in a little bit. But of course, you go back to school in September, and it was always the same. Your first week, you're like, what am I doing? You just don't know. You're in different classrooms. Your timetable's completely different. You've probably got different teachers for different subjects. And it's a lot to try and cope with. It really is. So, yeah. And the second school that I started in had a school counsellor. And I was kind of struggling with the whole being gay thing. And I confided in a friend one day, and that friend wasn't as trustworthy as I thought. Went on to tell another friend, who told another friend, and before I knew it, basically the whole school knew. And that was scary. That was scary because I was already living in a new town to me, a new town with a reputation, a new town with kind of deserved reputation, and it was a scary place to be. And you're seeing other teenagers around your age, and they know something about you that can cause a danger to your life, because not everyone's going to like it, not everyone's going to understand it. And when people are confronted with things that they don't understand, or they can't figure out, some people lash out, and that's just an unfortunate side effect of being gay. Unfortunately, kind of just goes with the territory. But I still didn't really understand, why am I having these feelings? Why is it every other day I find someone else attractive? What the fuck? And so to get my head around it, I went and saw my school counsellor, and we had weekly sessions on and off for basically the 3 years that I was in that school. And she helped me in unbelievable ways. I mean, I ended up in a book called What Now, which was a little booklet. It's about 100 pages or something like that, but it was a guidebook for other teenagers. And I mean, this is probably another story for another time, right? But okay, so the What Now book, it was this guidebook, and it tells kids about drugs, and if you're struggling with addiction, phone this number, and all this sort of stuff. And it was a yearly book that came out, and my school counsellor had taken me to some meeting, and I can't remember what the fuck the meeting was about, but I got talking to this other woman, didn't know her at all, and she asked me my opinion on a few things, and how was I doing at school and stuff like that. And kind of that was it, really. You know, we had a coffee and then we left. Anyway, my school counsellor comes over to me, like, when we're on the way home, and says, look, before I left, I met this woman called Heather, and this is her phone number. She wants you to ring her because she really likes your attitude and she might want you to be in the What Now book. So I'm like, oh, right, okay, fair enough. So got in touch, and the long story short is they took us away for a weekend, and just basically took photos of us doing everything. You know, we had to like go up in the woods for a bit, but even if we were just stood around talking, they'd be taking pictures of us, and it was all to go in this book. And I think the copy that I've got, I think I was in the book for about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, something like that, but I've only got one copy of it, and I cannot find any other copies. I can't even find it online. You know, it's as if this book never existed, but it genuinely does. But anyway, yeah. In fact, what I might do, actually, I might scan the front cover of that book and I'll put it as the thumbnail of the video. Right, okay. Note to self, remember to do that. But anyway, so I was in this book, and I was still having a difficult time kind of with everything that was going on in my life. And then sort of, you know, did my exams at the end of school, massively fucked up on them because, you know, when it comes to learning stuff, I'm a practical person. Like, you know, you show me this is a car, through actually moving the pedals, I will learn how to drive that car. You give me a book and say, read this, and then make notes, and then you'll learn how to drive. And I'll be like, nah, I'm never learning how to drive then. Fuck it. So, yeah, I do practical. I don't do paperwork and stuff like that. So, of course, my exams, I got the shittest results going. But my mum gave me kind of an ultimatum at the end of school. And she said, look, I will give you these 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, you have a choice. You can either go to college, in which case I will still get child tax credit for you, and that's fine. That will look after you. If you don't want to go to college, you have to get a job, and you have to start paying rent. Well, not rent, keep, as my mum would call it. And she said, you know, if we're being honest, we'll put it at, I think at first it was £60 a week. And the idea of that was that would cover my share of the bills, the food, the water, the general upkeep of the house, furniture, Sky TV, you know, stuff like that. And that's fine, because that in itself is a lesson. Because you're learning, look, I earn this amount, but I have this amount to pay out. And our school, while I was there, never taught anything like that, and it really should have done. And I know that schools are changing these days, and they are teaching kids how to budget, but this is how I learned. And yeah, I did. I learned the value of money. So over the next few years, you know, I went and had different jobs. I moved out to my mum's, moved into another house, was living with my dad for a bit, moved back to my mum's, got my own place and everything like this. And life was just sort of plodding along. And then in about, would have been about 2014, something like that. I had a friendship that broke up, and I began to sort of take a look at myself, and I realised things needed to change. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I knew that something wasn't right. And in that, what I mean is, like, you know, all these other people were like, oh, do you know, yeah, I've got work tomorrow, and oh, I'm only doing like a 10-hour shift. And I'm like, you sound enthusiastic about that. Like, why the hell are you happy about that? That's crazy. That doesn't make sense. I don't even want to get out of bed of a morning. You know, like, I don't find life enjoyable at the moment. And that's when my boyfriend at the time was like, you need to go and talk to your doctor. So I did. And my doctor spoke to me and said, look, yeah, you've got depression. I think you've also got anxiety. So we're going to try you on this medication. We have to sort of wean you on it. You have to start on a low dose, and if it doesn't work, then we'll up the dose. If that doesn't work, we'll up the dose. And if that doesn't work, we'll get you off that medication. We'll put you onto a different one. There's loads of different options for you. And I got a referral to a counselling service, and I thought, you know what? This is what I need. Well, since then, my life has been sort of trying to understand where my head is at. Because, like, years ago, I could have been on the stage as an entertainer doing party dances in front of hundreds of kids at a time. And I would be really enjoying myself. The thought of doing that now, it scares me. Like, really scares me. And it's not to say that I couldn't do it again. I probably could. I could probably go and do it as a full-time job. But something in my head tells me no. And so over the years, what I've done is I've gone and got a service which is called CBT. And CBT is cognitive behavioural therapy. And what that basically means is you don't go into a session and go, my parents got divorced. You go into a session and you say, look, this is the problem I'm having, where I don't want to get out of bed of a morning. And then what CBT is designed to do is saying, okay, so what do you do to get yourself out of bed? When it happens, what happens? So you say, okay, well, I always, get out the bed on the left-hand side. And CBT might be as simple as, okay, try getting out on the right-hand side. It's putting practical things in place, and they are to improve you. Not just your mental health, but your physical health as well. And I always remember getting told there are 3 areas of CBT, and this is the way that you have to get into thinking. And it's let me try and get this right. So it's action, and then it goes to thought. No, hang on. No, it's not. It's thought, action, consequence. And you find that they are in like a triangle. And when you're having your depression, or when I'm having my depression or anxiety moments and stuff like that, I flit in that triangle. So the thought might be, I can't take the bin out. So the action is, I don't take the bin out. The consequence is, the bin doesn't get taken out and it doesn't get emptied. But then, because the bin doesn't get taken out, the thoughts then go to, oh shit, well, I'll just do it next week. But then because I've thought, well, I'll do it next week, the action is, I forget about it. So the consequence is, for 2 weeks, the bin doesn't get taken out. You see where I'm going with this? It just keeps revolving around the triangle, and it's about breaking that triangle. It is a huge topic, and it covers so many things, but CBT really does help me to this day. But I just have to put the things into practice, and that can be difficult when you're fighting with depression. Because when I'm fighting with depression, I shut myself away from the real world, And I will often find that nothing entertains me. I feel bored. But I don't want to go and see friends. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to watch a film. I don't want to read through Twitter. I don't want to take a shower. And something has to give. And it's when you're in that mindset, it's pushing yourself to come out of the mindset. And when you're feeling hopeless, worthless, like a piece of shit in society, when you're in that mindset, it feels as if there is no point. There's no point. So why would you even bother trying? With me, I'm lucky. My depression comes and goes. Sometimes I can have a depression period that lasts for a few weeks. Sometimes it might just be a day. It might just be a couple of hours. I never know how long it's going to be with me, but I do know that I am worth something in this world. I do know that I have a support network around me, and I only have to speak to one person and they will be there for me. I know that. But breaking the cycle is beyond being difficult. But we have to try. And that's kind of where I'm at with depression. I have the tools to help myself, but when I'm in the depression, I don't see the point in trying. And that's the worst bit about it, really. But anyway, enough about my depression. Look, I'm going to finish the video here. Depression, like I said, it is a very, very big and complicated and scary topic to face. And I know that many people listening to this, potentially a majority, will have at some point experienced depression and anxiety. You probably might even be facing it now. This might just be my voice playing in the background. But seek help. That's all I can say. I know that at the minute, our healthcare systems around the world, they're about as clued up on mental health as we are. You know, they're still learning and we're still learning. Everyone is worth something, whether we like it or not. We are worth something. And whether we know it or not, someone does care for us. It's just finding the energy to talk about it. And yeah, just reach out for help. Talk to a stranger. Talk to your doctor. Talk to your parents. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Talk to your pets. Talk. Just talk. And that's it. So thank you very much for listening to this video. This podcast, should I say. Episode 8. And I will hopefully catch you again soon. If you would like to support the podcast, please have a little look in the video description bit below. There is a link to Honey on this one. So Honey is an add-on extension browser thing for the internet where basically you can go onto any website and the app will look through literally thousands of voucher codes in order to try and save you money. So it's free of charge to use. It is free of charge, but it's free, so just install it. Sign up using the link below and you will get some goodies as well, but they keep changing what the goodies are, so I just don't really know. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please check out Honey, and I'll see you in the next podcast.